Do you enjoy our podcast and the guests we bring you? Since 2019, Matt and his team have done their very best to give you amazing shows each week. If you feel like our show has helped you to be a better investigator, or maybe even inspired you to become an investigator, please let us know. We're looking for testimonials. Drop Matt an email with a recorded 20 to 30 seconds of you talking about this podcast. You can also email him something verbal about the website. His email is matthews@satellitepi.com. And if you really feel blessed for having this content, consider supporting Matt and our show by joining Investigator's Toolbox. You really have to see version 2.0. And at just 49 cents a day, it's a no-brainer. Now let's jump in to this week's episode. Welcome to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. Today, Alex Chilton from CGA Solutions in Georgia is back talking about the SLIC conference. This conference is a yearly event down in Georgia and has some excellent training and networking. So let's join the guys and learn all about it. Please welcome Alex Chilton and your host, private investigator Matt Spaier.
And welcome everyone to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today I'm really excited and I'm happy to have a friend from down south, deep south. I want to welcome my friend Alex Chilton back to the program. Alex, how are you?
Doing great, man. How about you? Good to see you again, actually.
Yeah, great to see you. Great to see you. So if folks don't remember, Alex was on last year and we were talking about the SLIC conference, which I ended up attending. And it was fantastic. It was such a great time. It was like one of those impactful conferences where there wasn't a huge turnout, but man, the folks that were there were really, really serious. And it kind of set the plate for this year. And you kind of work on the momentum of what happened last year and get things going. So before we get into conference-y type stuff, tell people who you are, where you're located, and what you do.
Well, like you said, my name is Alex Chilton. I am the managing partner and chief investigator for CGA Solutions. We're based out of Augusta, Georgia, but we have our offices in Stone Mountain, Athens, Georgia now, and Savannah, Georgia. We also have a small office in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where we primarily focus on service of process.
Right. And I've had you on before. We've talked about growing out businesses and, when is it time to have multiple offices? I know I kind of run multiple offices in the Bronx and in New York City. They're close to one another, not quite as spread out as you've got it. I mean, I'm lucky in New York that everything is so, condensed and pushed in together. You can really just focus on one area. But folks that are around the country don't really have that luxury. You have to build out in different cities and always making that decision of when to do it and how to do it is challenging, right?
Yeah, it is. And one of the things for us, and I got a great partner, David Gibbs is my partner. He is a guru when it comes to service of process, finding people, getting them served, that kind of stuff. And we really used our service of process portion of the business as a way to get our foot in the door. And then the investigations just kind of naturally follow for us.
Yeah.
The service of process side of things, and all candor, is like 60% of our overall annual revenue. And I'm okay with that because, we have a great group of process servers, a great group of investigators, and, guys that know how to get things done. And that's really where our focus has been and how we've been able to spread out so fast.
Sure. You can add satellite investigations to the mix as your New York people. So we've been doing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been great.
Yeah, let me tell you what, if anybody out there listening ever needs a good group of guys in New York, Matt's guys are probably the best up there is what I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah. In the process service company that I partner up with, they're real professionals and really know how to get done. So, that was one of the things of me coming to SLIC last year. So I met your partner, right? And I was able to break bread and hang out, introduce myself and have a good time. And coming back from there, it's like, okay, now I know somebody up in New York. I have this national contract and, I get served all over the place. You're my New York guy because I met you and I hung out with you, and you don't have three eyes, and you seem pretty credible. I don't know, a bit of a snake oil salesman, but let's give it a roll. All right. So
Right. That's
it's
right.
worked
That's
out.
right.
Yeah, it's worked out, and I love working with him. It's been a great um, relationship. And then, obviously, when you had contacted me and said, "Hey, we're doing SLIC again," I was like, "Yep, I'm coming back down." Absolutely, it was fun. Even though I got stuck going home. I got stuck
Yeah,
going home in Atlanta for an extra day. That's a whole story in itself.
that is so much of a hazard, coming in and out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
I do everything I can just to avoid that airport if I'm
Yeah.
traveling. I'll go to Charlotte first, or I'll go to Greenville, somewhere else. I just will not take off from there if I
Oh
can
no,
help
I
it.
went to Greenville too. That was the only way I could get home. So
Oh, wow.
apparently my
Okay.
journey was Atlanta to Greenville, Greenville to New York City, and then
Wow.
home for less than 24 hours, and then on a plane to Las Vegas for another conference. Um,
Yeah.
it was good times, but and it wasn't actually the airport's fault. The weather was like, there was a horrific storm that came in, and the whole eastern seaboard was trashed,
Yeah.
and I ended up spending the night at the residence of Harriet Gold and her husband, who were gracious enough to put me up.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
Harriet's good people, man. I've done some subcontract work for her years ago. She's some good people. Yep.
yeah, and that's Southern hospitality, right? It
Right.
extended from Augusta, Georgia, all the way out to Atlanta. I've quickly become a big fan of Georgia, even though I do hate that airport. And I agree with you; it's like hell on earth. But as far
It
as like,
is.
whenever I've had investigative work that needs to get done, whether it's you guys or Harriet or even some of the other in Georgia, licensed Georgia investigators I've used, it's been pretty amazing. Um, the work, the quality of work coming out of Georgia, I can't say enough. So yeah, it's and that goes with training, right? You have good training, you have good investigators. So tell me a little bit about SLIC and who's going to be there this year and what it's all about.
So the the Security and Licensed Investigator Conference, our focus with this conference, because our board has a dual role here in Georgia, our regulatory board licenses both security personnel as well as investigators. We thought it'd be a great idea to put everybody into one pot, kind of like they did, and give good training across the board. So what we've done with the conference is try to get a good amalgamation of security type training as well as investigation type training, and then any crossover stuff that we could possibly put together. And this year, I think we've probably done a better job at that than we did last year. I know we had some security topics last year, but I think things really focused more on investigations. This year, I hope I've kind of done a better job of putting the right people and the right topics together. So that's what SLIC is all about. It's just about better professional training, helping everybody get ahead on their CEUs and staying ahead. Because I hate to hear I get phone calls at the last minute all the time. Hey, can you put on a short course for us?
Right.
And it's just very hard to accommodate that. It really is. So
Right.
This hopefully, along with all the other conferences that go on around the South, I'm hoping that ours will be able to help fill a gap for somebody somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I love about it. Like I've been to a few down there between Florida and Georgia and South Carolina. The content is always great. You guys definitely know how to take care of your people. The hospitality is amazing. The venues are always great. And the content, more importantly, is it's good. It's engaging. I always say, like, I like to go to conferences where the speakers they solicit the opinions of people in the audience. That interaction, having interaction like that, it's important. And considering like who you're talking to, like you're talking to your peers, like they pretty much have a similar experience that you have, and maybe they have some insight or back and forth that could be valuable. So it's always a good thing.
And let me add this too, and I know I was brought up, probably like you were brought up, you don't talk about money at the table, so to speak. But,
Right.
we don't charge a lot for this conference. My goal, which turned into our goal for the company, was not profit driven. It was education driven. It was professionalism driven. We all said, this is our threshold. This is where we can break even on the conference, and anything above that or below that, it is what it is. So we don't put this conference on with a profit in mind or amount of money that we need to make. It is what it is. Either we make money or we don't make money. If we do, great. If we don't, no skin off our teeth, because that was never our goal going into this. It was honestly just to prepare good training topics for everybody involved.
Yeah. I mean, doing it all for the good of the community, right? The investigative community.
Our job as a host, and it was, and that's how we looked at it. This is our way to give back for the number of years that we've been in this industry, was to try to elevate it to some degree, and my thing has always been training. I've always been a classroom geek. I love to go somewhere, sit down, learn something, or, in the field or whatever. And I wanted to bring that to reality here in Augusta, since we have such a good jumping off point for most places in the state. Yeah.
And the venue too is great. I think you're in the same place again this year, right?
Yes. The DoubleTree by Hilton. They treat us so well over there. I mean, all we have to ask for, is what we need, and we get it, and they go above and beyond to make sure that need's always filled. Great.
Yeah, I know as a vendor, because I was there with the Investigator's Toolbox. Like, it definitely was accommodated. It was good. It was comfortable. And the restaurant in there was pretty good. The bar was fun. There were people there. I think it was like a week before the golf tournament or something. Like, something was going on, if I remember.
Yeah, I think the golf tournament was going to be like the next 2 weeks after that, but we were also, I think last year we got our dates kind of messed up, and we ended up on St. Patrick's Day. Right. And I think that kind of messed a lot of people up, because they were doing St. Patrick's celebrations and then trying to get there, or trying to get away from to go to St. Patrick's celebration. So yeah. So that's how we ended up.
Dry out to go to some training, please.
Yes.
Oh man, it's good stuff. Yeah, it was definitely a good conference. So, all right. So we're going to take a break real quick, and then when we come back, I want to dig in more to the subject matter of what's going to be covered and what the day will look like, and we'll go from there. All right. So everybody, sit tight, and we'll be right back.
Have you heard about the 2023 SLIC conference? You're not going to want to miss this event in Augusta, Georgia on March 13th and 14th. The conference will feature practical topics, outstanding speakers, and happy hour networking sessions, plus more. There are 16 CEUs available for Georgia and 12 CEUs available for South Carolina. Topics include practical aspects of defensive shooting, justifiable use of force with a taser, fire investigations, courtroom deposition testimony, how to navigate open records request, human trafficking, recognition and reporting, and so much more. Learn all about it at CGA-Solutions.com. Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes.
I want to talk to everybody today about ScopeNow.com. ScopeNow has been a big-time sponsor of this program for quite some time, and I just love their service. I've been using them since the beginning. I'm one of their beta customers, and it's been so awesome to see them grow into the business that they are today, and just how they just keep reinventing themselves and pushing themselves to get more and more information. What it comes down to is ScopeNow is a tool that you definitely need to use if you do social media investigations, any internet research, and really spending less time digging around and looking for information. I think is one of the best points of how ScopeNow can help you. Their AI platform, their analytics are amazing. You really get an idea of what you need. You're reducing the time, you're reducing the manpower that you're spending on doing this research, because they're essentially doing it for you, and they're doing it correctly, which is most important. One of the new things that they're actually offering is this flagging system where you can flag behaviors and really highlight and look out for fraud. If you're doing a lot of fraud research, this is a fantastic tool, and you can set up alerts. So you have particular people that you're looking at, you can actually set up alerts to get notifications when the criteria that you set up is actually is flagged and goes off. It's really, really amazing. And their relationship and association analytics are top notch, really cutting edge and really, really cool. When they brought that out on version 3, it was a game changer. I mean, really being able to see how people interact together and having that relationship, analysis is really, really something that's cool. One of the other things about being involved with ScopeNow is their ability to offer webinars. Their team is cutting edge on putting together and getting out really, really great content. If you're a member of ScopeNow, if you know who they are, you've seen them around on LinkedIn, you'll know that they're constantly doing webinars on these new websites that are coming out, and they're really staying on top of it. And don't forget, any reports that you generate, you can actually white label those reports and put your own logos on and really make them look professional, which could equate to more billing for you as well. So check them out today. It's www.scopenow.com. They're a great, great company. They should be one of the tools in your toolbox, along with whatever kind of search engines you do. You need to make sure that ScopeNow is a part of that suite. Scopenow.com.
Looking for an insurance agent that puts you first? Every PI business is different. That's why OREP Insurance can shop multiple markets to ensure you get the best coverage to meet your unique business needs. OREP's model is business by the golden rule, and for over 20 years, they've built their business by putting their clients first. So come enjoy a fast online application and same-day certificates of insurance at OREP.org. OREP has coverage for armed investigators, executive protection, and even has a separate policy for security firms. The application takes less than 5 minutes, so visit OREP.org today. OREP.org.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. I'm here with Alex Chilton from Georgia. Alex, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we're talking all things SLIC this episode. We're covering this great conference that took place last year, and then we've got another one coming up. So what are the dates for the conference this year?
Conference is scheduled for March 13th and 14th this year. That's a Monday and Tuesday. We have rooms set aside and available for anybody who wants to come down early on Sunday so they can get there and get checked in. Our first day is going to start around 9 o'clock. We're going to have early check-in at 8, hopefully between 8 and 8:30, start at 9 the first day, and probably finish up somewhere around 6 that evening.
Okay.
And then we're going to do a happy hour after that for everybody, kind of like what we did last year that everybody enjoyed.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, putting these things together is always a challenge, I know. And especially when you have like other things going on in your city or state or or in the industry that'll look at that. That's always a challenge, and it's always like you're trying to provide content, you're trying to provide things that are attractive, worthwhile for people to make the consideration. Going to these things. And man, I was so impressed last year with the speakers and everything that was put together. How do you source out, like, how do you decide what your program's going to look like when you're putting it together?
So one of the first things I've caught myself doing is I'm a news junkie, first of all. So I'm scouring the news. I'm looking for things that are relevant, things that I see maybe law enforcement or private securities dealing with, things that I know private investigators are dealing with, just from looking at the chat rooms and the listserv of information that comes across a lot of times. Right. And I start building my topic list. And last year I started building a topic list probably in June. Started a little late because we were experiencing some growth again and trying to put people in place, and I got started a little late on the topics. But ultimately, I try to make everything as relevant as possible as what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always so important. Even like on the podcast, like people say, why don't you just record a whole bunch of episodes, like, and put them in the can, and then you got like 2 months worth of episodes and just do a little bit of time. Like, I don't like doing that because like things change, and I like to be able to, when I'm having a conversation with somebody, just talk about things that are topical, and if there's an event that took place that's relevant to the conversation, being able to reference it, I think is better. So I'm all about, I'm a news junkie too. I can't help it. I think when you do what we do, you just can't help but, pay attention to things. So.
Well, just building on what you said, fresh content and relevant content are extremely important. And that is always a good thing to have anytime you're doing something like this. And I'm sorry, just 1 second. I thought I had turned it off, interrupt your podcast.
That's all right, man. It's all good. This is why we don't throw things in the can here.
Sorry.
It's all
good. So my daughters got me off of the Android phone and got me onto an iPhone, and not everything is the same. So I think I've turned something off. I have it, and it kind of goes back and forth. So anyhow, sorry about that. But yeah, the topics are very important in training. And you and I talked about this last year. I took a year or two out of my life, and I traveled to every conference I could possibly get to, probably over a 2-year period. And one of the things I kept noticing were the same people in the same places on a regular basis. I'm not going to say all the time, but on a regular basis. And it just became repetitive. Some conferences became repetitive. So my goal with this was to always be fresh and relevant. And that's what I hope I've done.
Absolutely. So like when I get asked to speak at conferences, I try to have like 3 or 4 different topics. It's like when somebody approaches me and say, hey, we're considering you, would you be interested in doing this? It's like, yeah, okay, well, what were your thoughts? What do you want me to talk about? Well, we want you to talk about photography. Well, I just did that one at a conference recently, or all that's kind of out there. Can we do this other one instead? Oh yeah, that's a great topic. Go ahead and do that. Right. So like being able as a speaker to mix it up too, I think is important too. And you have some of these veterans that speaking veterans are very good at mixing topics up and doing things. There are others that they're kind of a one-trick pony. This is what they do. This is what they talk about it. And it serves a purpose because they're really good at what they do. I mean, I can fire off 5 names right now of people that are excellent speakers, and all they talk about is that one thing, but I get what you're saying, right? The same people over and over again. It's hard to get people to comment and they've seen something already.
Well, I'm going to tell you, and I didn't mean to interrupt you earlier, but the one person that I will go see every time I get a chance, and she teaches the same thing all the time, and I'm for is Michelle Stewart.
Yeah.
She is an open source intelligence guru, and I really love attending her conferences. It's some of it is repetitive, but she does a really good job of finding the newest topics for everything, or the newest greatest thing in open source. But every time I get a chance, I take one of her classes regardless.
I agree with you. Michelle's she's a national treasure. So,
yes.
And like, 1 hour doesn't do time. It doesn't do justice of it. So I'm with you on that one. And I do tend to see Michelle at least once a year. It's something I'm going to. She's there.
Absolutely.
And I'm okay with it. But it's good. It's important to mix those topics up, and the industry is always changing too, right? So right now, like, drones are a thing, and there are people that are teaching classes on drones, which are great. There are people that are teaching, on surveillance, the different things. I did Jim Nanos is doing one on deconfliction, which I had no idea what that terminology was. I'm not a surveillance guy, but it's interesting, right? Alerting, like, how do you alert authorities that you're doing work without tipping anybody off, really, so it's like that kind of stuff. I think is very interesting. It's good to know, which is the most important thing, right?
Absolutely.
Getting your credits, but actually learning something when you're getting your credits. Two separate things.
Look, the networking and the networking and everything is great, but ultimately, we're all there to learn, and that's really what I wanted to make the focus of this conference was good learning. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there was a good vendor turnout too last year. There was some really reputable companies.
I tell you, I couldn't have asked for better people, including yourself, to show up as vendors. I've only got one, I think, that's not going to return this year just because they have other obligations on that date. But we had a great turnout of vendors, and we're going to have some great ones this year too. I've already got Clear confirmed. I've got you confirmed. I've got IRB. Oh my goodness, my friends over at the GPS tracking. I can't think of their company name right now. Oh, they're going to be so mad at me. But I've got them confirmed as well. And there is one vendor that we're still working on. I don't want to announce them yet until I know for sure. Okay. But we do have a vendor that we're working on.
That's great. Yeah. And it's always like, for me as a vendor, it's fun to see those guys too, because I'm friends with them. So it's like, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. So it's always a good mix on it. Yeah, I mean, listen, I commend you for your passion, and your drive to do this. It's hard putting these things together. I don't think people realize how difficult it is to do it. And it's like, this is kind of what you do. And when you're done with this one, I'm sure you're going to start on next year's program, right? This is kind of what you're known for.
The networking to get this done is tremendous within itself, and if you've got a minute, I can go over some of the topics. And
yeah, sure, please.
I mean, just to give you an idea. So when I originally designed the conference this year, I wanted someone to go in and do a Uvalde review, right? And I looked for really high caliber security people, former FBI law enforcement guys, things like that. Unfortunately, the topic became a little too hot, and nobody really wanted to do a review of what went wrong there. So what I've done is I pulled in Rob Chadwick. Rob's a former FBI SWAT team leader. So this year he's going to do a solo responder for active shooters, or solo responder considerations for active shooters. It's going to be because private investigators find themselves sometimes seeing things when nobody else does, or because we're out doing surveillance, something happens in front of us. I think it's a relevant topic to look at that, as well as, building it around, solo security officers as well, what they can do on scene to kind of, help the situation and get people out of harm's way. I'm teaching a class on the practical aspects of defensive shooting. This is my classroom portion of my normal 2-day class that I teach. Right. I've gone in and tweaked it a little bit this year to make it a little more relevant. Just everything going on. Things can get stale sometimes, so I'm hoping it'll be a good refresh for everybody. We're going to be doing basics of fire investigations this year as well. We're going to be doing mortgage and real estate related frauds and crimes. Got a really good guy coming in doing that. Josh Davis, he's an attorney up in Atlanta, really smart guy, knows the real estate industry inside and out. He's going to do a great presentation for us.
That's great.
I tapped into Angela Morales with Queensboro National Bank and Trust. She's going to do an elder financial exploitation. She's going to be great. I talked to her on the phone a couple of times, and she is very passionate about this crime. And I know a lot of times as private investigators, we get called in to investigate crimes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So this is a great presentation for us. I've got for courtroom and deposition testimony, I'm bringing in another lawyer named Andy Tisdale. Andy is a great trial lawyer. He is a great cross-examination lawyer. He knows how to dig it out of you, and he knows what you should be doing and saying and not doing and not saying anytime that you're in a deposition or on the stands. It'll be a great great asset to us this year. I'm really proud to announce that I've got Sheriff Alfonso Williams coming. He's the sheriff of Burke County. He's going to talk to us about interacting with law enforcement, at different levels of professionalism that we should not only exude, but also expect back from law enforcement. And he's going to talk to us about our interactions, with law enforcement. I've got another great lawyer coming, Todd Boudreau. Todd is a former city attorney for the city of Augusta. His firm used to contract to the city of Augusta to handle their legal needs. And Todd is an absolute monster when it comes to open records and Freedom of Information Act requests. He'll be able to give you a definitive answer on what the government can and cannot give you, or what they should give you in return for your request, and whether or not that they become capricious with their refusals and stuff. We've got human trafficking. Dr. Amistad and her staff are coming to talk about human trafficking. That is a new branch of our local government here. She's kind of a quasi law enforcement position. She works closely with law enforcement as well as with like family and children services. She's kind of like a bridge. I get the impression her office has become like a bridge between those two agencies. And she's got great people with a lot of experience coming to talk to us about that this year. And then finally, I got Michael Beal, Chief Michael Beal. He is the chief firefighter at the Augusta Regional Airport, and he's going to be talking to us about critical incident management. And this is really more based for security personnel, when they have to help guide first responders in for a critical incident happening, at a particular campus or location. But he's going to give us a great presentation on that topic as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a great program. It's just like nonstop. It's a lot of content.
Sorry.
So if folks were interested in signing up for this thing, how would they go about signing up for it?
We have a website. If they go to our webpage, CGA-Solutions.com, a banner will pop up as soon as you go to the page, and you can click through that link and sign up through there. It'll take you straight through Eventbrite.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put a link to that in the show notes and all that. So Alex, we're going to wind down here. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. It's always great chatting with you. I'm going to be there too. So if you want to say hi to me, I'll have my table. It's an event worth going to. Definitely. You heard the content there. It's a lot of diversity, a lot of different aspects of work, and it's topical, like things you can actually use. And that's always important, going and learning about something that you can actually put to use for your own investigative company. Right. So again, thanks for tuning in. Thank you everybody for checking out the episode. We'll be back next week with another episode. Take care.
Thanks for checking out this episode. And thanks to Alex for giving us a sneak peek at the conference. Matt will also be representing Investigator's Toolbox. And special thanks to SLIC Conference, Scope Now, PI Institute of Education, and OREP for sponsoring this show. So please support these great sponsors. And also don't forget about investigatorstoolbox.com. You can type in version 2.0 25% to save $50 when you join. If you have a question or a comment about the show, just email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com, and you can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We like your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we'll be back next week with a new show. So make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.